Hey,
Doing his life.
we are live, and welcome to Two and Wild and Crazy Guys. We've been sitting here having a good time for a half hour. Hey, Elon,
Oh, I haven't seen anybody yet. Have I got my? Oh no, I haven't got the comments up. That's why.
he said he loved to see that mocha that you had.
Oh, I've got it here. He will see it tonight. And there's Angelo and Streamyard. Don't know him.
I only see Elon, so you're seeing more than I'm seeing for some reason.
Angela's here, or Angelo, I should say.
Hey, Radar.
Angelo, it's nice of you to pop in. Work comes first, mate. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, he just popped in. He can't.
Yeah,
He can't hang.
that's nice. Nice of him to pop in anyway.
He can't hang with the big boys.
or the retirees.
Yeah, the guys with nothing better to do, but
Yeah, and T Fetch is in there.
yeah,
Yo, I'm
yeah.
getting down. I'm getting down with the kids.
Yo, T bitch.
Oh, that
All
must be
right.
it.
So, if you're new, if you're just looking at this and not making a comment, uh, I am Rasputin, Mike with Rasputin's Castle, and my very special guest, who's not, he really comes on every time. He's not really a guest. Actually, he's not really that special, but
It's
it
like,
is Stephen from Patty's Potato Pillar.
how you
And
doing? I'm like chewing gum in the bottom of his shoe. He's not getting me off.
and it's great having Patty here. Um, man, we have a lot of fun. We cut up a lot when you guys aren't actually
Yeah,
watching what we're doing. So
yeah. We do
we,
sort the world out probably once a week.
yeah, we tell the truth when we're alone. We tell the truth. You know, like I stuck myself yesterday. I got a big old hole in my finger here, and yeah,
Yeah, that made two of us.
yeah, man. All right. So Stephen actually had this idea. We were talking, and he wanted to talk about value, the value equation of knives, and it's kind of a controversial subject, but I think people get butt hurt sometimes talking about it. But
Uh,
we're definitely not the high end user knife guys.
no,
But the question is, at what point, when you start raising the price on a knife, from a $16 knife to a $100 knife to a $180 knife to a $300 knife, at what point are you not getting any value for that, any value for your money? And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. And that's an arbitrary thing, right, Stephen?
uh,
You may have different views than I do.
no, absolutely. And it's funny. We asked this question on the podcast. Me and Justin asked it, and it was amazing the range. And maybe we could throw it out here as well to see what the range is like.
Yeah.
What is your limit that you will spend on a knife? Just now, that's a separate question. But what is your limit that you will spend on a knife at the moment? Because most people, it always is just at the moment, and it kind of increases. There's Big E's in as well, Clay in. So it increases as the longer you get into the hobby, the more you want to try that next level. But there comes a point at that next level when it comes, that's way too dear. I'm definitely not going over that because I'm not going to get anything back for it. I.e., the knife's not going to cut any better. You're not going to get any better steels. You know what I mean? There's a lot of reasons why it comes your end of the knife. For me personally, I have just this last week spent more on a knife than I ever thought I would. Now, I sold knives to get it, so you have to take that again. I didn't pay cash for it because I wouldn't have that much cash that I'd have free that I want to spend on it. But I have got a knife that's worth a grand, say. It's secondhand, so but it was when it was bought, it was probably a bit over the grand. So, and it's a custom knife. And if you haven't seen it on my own channel, here it
Yeah.
is. It's a Brazilian maker called Romano, isn't it? Yeah. See,
Yeah.
I'm not even sure his name. Romano. And this is hand satin finished, hand rubbed, beautiful. It's Westinghouse micarta. It, it's immaculate in every way. And, again, later on in my own channel, I'll do a real up close because you cannot find a fault, even under a magnifying glass. I haven't found anything that I would call a fault. So it is a beautiful knife. But if I had another £900 or £1,000 or just over 1,000 land in the bank, would I do it again? And I'll answer that question later on.
Okay. Yeah, as I showed these knives, I don't have, like, I can't say I don't have a $500 knife because I do, but I just didn't pay $500 for that.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with me is I have, it's not that I wouldn't, like, there are knives that I would pay $1,000 for, but it's basically art, at that point. You're not getting anything, like, it's not a super knife. It's not a lightsaber, and I just have a hard time paying over $500 for a knife. You get it in my knife collection. I have low end, medium, and high, and I look at them, and really, once you get to a certain point, they're all the same. I mean, you can't make a knife any better than a good, perfect knife.
Yeah.
What you can do is you can sculpt them. You can do like what's that high end maker I'm thinking of? I've showed it to you before. His knives are magnificent. They're works of art, engraven and wood and gold in them. I can't think of his name.
No, I get it.
I have to look it up. Anyhow, I'd pay $1,000 for his knives, right? Because the engraven is hand engraved. It's not a CNC machine.
No,
and that costs money. And like, I'm a firearm collector too. And when you start engraving, like, you take a 1911, you can get them between $500 and $1,000. But if you want a custom engraved 1911, you're going to pay 10 grand, at least, because it's a lot of effort to do that freehand,
And again, that's subjective because, I mean, to what everybody thinks is high end is completely subjective as well. Do you have to have diamonds, or can it be just a bit of sculpting? Can it be? And I think it's all of them things in the owner of the person who's bought it. It's just whatever they think. There's a couple of people coming in now. There's Elan is 100 to 200, and the Elan, the most he's ever spent is 300. Big Easy's, he's paid 600 for a knife. Yeah, that's a good figure for a knife. I don't like spending more than £100 clay.
Yeah,
that's great. They're all coming in, and you just start to see the different value that people put on knives.
Yeah, well, and it's a personal thing. It's what you're willing to do and what you think value is. That's a personal thing to every individual, and that's why it's a really hard question to ask. I remember it's almost 12 years ago that I bought my Cold Steel Recon. It was the first super steel knife I had. It's S35BN steel. The knife is not finely made, but it's brutally made. It's a beast, right? And when I bought that knife, I'm working with people and I'm showing them. They're like, "Hey, what knife is that?" And then when I told them I paid $100 for it, I paid $99, right, at the time. And I was trying to get a super steel, which is why I bought the knife, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't want to pay $180 for super steel. And so I tried it. And when I said $100, I mean, people were like, "Man, I wouldn't spend more than $30 for a knife." They thought I was crazy,
There's JO Adventure spent 170s the most he spent. Radar's 250. But yeah, hello Kathleen, how are you doing? I remember when I started, because I wasn't a knife person. I always carried a knife, but I wasn't a knife person. I would have had one knife till I lost it. That would have been it. But when I started collecting knives, my price range was Ganzo, Rough Riders,
Right.
any of the sort of cheaper models. That's what it was. The thought of spending even £50 for a knife would have been abhorrent. I would have thought, no, that's not the way I want to go. And I'm sure I said it many a times. I wouldn't spend that much on a knife. If somebody buys it to me, that's all right. But I'm not. And my wife did buy me a £60 knife, and I remember the excitement of waiting for that knife to come was the start of when your head tells you, I'm in trouble now.
Yeah.
I'm in trouble now. But I didn't buy another one for that price for a long time. So
Yeah.
nobody starts, I think, at £1,000 for a penknife.
Yeah, I think when I paid $100 for that cold steel, it was like pulling nails out of my hand. I was one of those $30
Yeah.
knife guys, and 40 that would be a match. It had to be something special. But using that cold steel made me realize, there is a value that you can get by paying more. And then the question is, when does that end? When does paying more for a knife? And I've answered this question on my videos before from people. When does that price you up, that greater increase in price? When are you no longer getting value for that? In other words, the knife isn't getting any better.
Yeah. Here's another question to those who have answered, and if you haven't answered, please put their price up. But has anybody's price that they've put up today, has that increased from when they started? And is it multiple increases or just one increase? That's another interesting question, you see, because so many of us have a start price, and in increments, we tend to go up as we collect.
Yeah, that certainly is true for me. So I've been willing to pay more and more. I realize the value of a well-made knife now. Most of those are collectible for me. Like I paid $220 for this. What the heck is this? Man, we're getting old, Stephen. You know that?
Absolutely. That's why I joined your show, because I needed somebody else who was as dottery as I was.
It's the Integra by Kinset.
Yeah.
And I paid again. It was on sale. They were getting rid of them.
Yeah.
And I paid $225 for this. It was like a $380-$400 knife, and it's a beautiful knife with what do they call it? Lightning strike anodization.
There's a few names they call it. But it's beautiful, whatever it is.
But it's butter smooth, and that's kind of what I do. I'll buy these high end knives when they're on sale, rather than pay $500 for them. And some of them, though. So it also goes two ways, Stephen. I want to say hi to Samurai. He said hi to me.
Yeah. Spitting slicers.
Kathleen said her top price is $150. And so it goes both ways, right? So you can pay more for a knife and get more. But every now and then you get a knife like this knife right here. Let me see if I can get a better picture of it. This is that new knife I bought right here. This is that new knife, that Katsu, okay? And it's carbon fiber. And this knife is just fantastic. I paid $80 for this knife. And so, in my opinion, what you're getting in this knife is a knife that's worth $220 for $80. So it can go both ways, right? So you can get value in a knife. And I think that happens a lot when the new manufacturers are coming out.
And that's exactly where we've got with Rosecraft at the minute. We were talking about this afternoon. They are so below what they could be sold for. So enjoy it while it's there, because inevitably, if they keep producing, any new company, if they keep producing good product, their price will increase. That's business. I mean, there's nothing wrong in that. But I mean, getting on the market is, there's old father, he's 350.
Well,
Yeah,
so that's
I'm
a strategy by knife companies, right? So
it is. Yeah,
especially these Kinsep comes to the market. You may remember back when we came on the market, right?
yeah,
So they come
absolutely.
on the market and they have no brand recognition. Nobody knows anything about this knife. And until guys start buying it and using it and doing videos on it, nobody knows anything about it.
Yeah.
And so they'll often come in at a lower price than they're worth. And then in a couple of years, when they have brand recognition, that's when the price starts going up.
Well, do you know what's funny? Just talking about that and how it is. I mean, you mentioned I can remember them when they first came out, and their knives weren't cheap. They were
Right.
up. They were the same level as sort of American-made knives at the time. A lot of American-made knives, and that was the first time that the Chinese had actually come in. And they came in and they were bringing out a new knife model every couple of weeks. It seemed like, in
Right.
fact, sometimes less. So they were ready for the launch, and they just came in and swamped the market with these knives. And I think that was another way of doing it. So they get plenty of people buying lots of different of their knives, but not in any great quantity. But they're getting them in people's hands who are showing them on YouTube and
Right.
getting the interest up because they were making a fantastic knife.
Right.
So that was another way of getting it in. They didn't even have to come in low; they just hit high. Like
Yeah.
Riyadh, I mean, they're high priced knives now.
Right. And
And
they started at the bottom, you know.
yeah, I mean, it's just all these companies have a different strategy. But the thing is,
Yeah.
and I think we have to step back as knife YouTubers because we get caught up in that. You know, I must get that one. People want to see this. People want to see that, and they do. People do want to do it. But I think the important thing for me is that you don't go over your comfort level because to me, once you get over, in my opinion, once I get over about £300, I'm not getting a better knife. It'll
Right.
cut. It looks good. You know, the fit and finish should be good at that price for me. It should be perfect at that price. But I'm going for the art. I'm going for the maker. I'm going for, you know, somebody who's been established and made knives. That's what I'm going for. But you can also get a dummy at £300 to £1,000. You can buy one that's just not up to scratch, and it's buyer beware. You know, you have to do more research, or you put your finger in the air and see where the wind is, like myself. And I was really fortunate that the knife I got was everything I expected it to be. No, I knew it was a very good maker as well. So
Right.
yeah,
Hey, let me do some shout outs here
yeah.
as we're going. Hi, Father EDC's on there. Jo Ventures. Hey, Jo. Um, who else did I just see on here? Clay, how you doing, Clay? Clay says the problem with setting a limit is that it doesn't take long to break it. And
Yeah.
then you set the new limit. Yeah. It's a vicious cycle, isn't it, Clay? It's like, oh my gosh. I can't stop, man. I was looking so once a year, I think I was telling you this, Patty.
Yeah.
Once a year, I'll go out and spend a lot of money on a knife that I normally wouldn't spend anywhere else. And I've been in that process of looking, you know, we were talking about Spartan blades. So I've been looking at Spartan knives, you know, they're around, bottom line's around 550, I think. And then they go up from there. But, and I just keep going back and forth. I was looking at some David Yellow horses, and I'm like, man, you know, I could get this David Yellow horse for $200, and it's kind of hard for me to go to that, spend the 500 on a Spartan blade when I could get a David Yellow horse, because I'm a slip joint guy. I love slip joints, and I especially love David Yellow horse. I mean, they're custom knives, you know.
Yeah, well, you showed one the other night on one of your videos. I was looking at it again. I've seen it a couple of times, but it's perfect. It's just beautiful.
Well, and here's another thing, okay, guys. If you want to save money and you're looking at something like a David Yellow horse, okay, especially the one I have been shown is it's made by Roper Knives. Okay, so it's a Roper knife. And we know Roper knives could be okay, but you know, they're not the highest quality. And so people know that and don't want to buy the Roper David Yellow Horse. And
Yeah.
that's why you can buy those in $150 range, right?
Uh,
The thing is that you have to remember, and the thing on that David Yellow Horse that I have is he completely takes those apart, okay, and he reassembles them. And on this is a Roper knife. It's marked right on there, Roper. You can see it. But when you look at the back of this, there's not a gap in that thing, okay? So he's taking this apart. He's playing these surfaces, and when he puts them back together, they're tight, right? They're
Yeah.
like any other high-end knife.
Yeah.
And the only difference on this is it doesn't have a David Yellow Horse blade, which
Yeah.
he doesn't do his own blades. He has them made for him,
Uh-huh.
but they're better blades for sure than
Yeah.
this. I think these are Roper blades here, but everything else about this knife is custom. You know, it's completely disassembled and reassembled by David Yellow Horse. So if you're looking to get a David Yellow Horse but don't want to pay $400 or $500, those Roper knives are a really good option for you.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, unlike the modern knife fraternity, on which a lot of us are in both camps, we like a bit of both. But a lot of the once you mention custom in the locking knives, it really usually gets you up that 500 start. You know, you're bouncing straight away from even a high-end production knife.
Right.
It's £500, you know, and up. So I think we're very lucky in the slip joint. But you know, for £300 or 350, you can buy an exceptionally good knife. I mean, and you hit the point, the nail on the head. Buying secondhand is the way to go if you're going to buy a custom.
Yeah.
It is one of, I don't have any of the customs that I haven't bought just well, I'm going to tell a lie there. My Ashley Harrison I paid cash for. But I mean, I got this one the other week. And again, this is probably a 300 secondhand.
Yeah, that's a great knife. Bigsby, right? Bigsby.
This is Dean Robertson.
Dino.
It's called the Dino.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny, it's 300 odd pounds, but I bought this as a user because I knew as soon as I seen it, I want to use that. I don't want to have this in my collection, but I mean proper use. I use this for everything.
Right.
And it's just beautiful in the hand. Fit and finish is what I would expect at that price range, but it is a user. I just love the bone. I could literally caress that bone all day long.
Okay, let's not get dirty now. Let's not get dirty.
But I mean, I bought that to use, and I am having so much pleasure using it. Not because it's dear, but because of it's just a really good knife.
So that's like, here's the thing. Like sometimes guys criticize you. This is a GEC. It's beautiful split back whittler here. Sorry for the lighting. I just didn't set any lighting up for this, but beautiful knife. I got this for $160, so just a little over what this knife retailed. But you know, you're paying $200 for these GEC knives.
Yeah,
and a lot of guys are out there using the crap out of them, but I don't, because I've got so many other knives, you know, that I can use. You know, I've got this Rough Rider. Why not use that? Then use, you know, the $200 knife, you know, or like a case, you know, use that case for $80 knife, you know. I don't know. I don't do that. That's crazy to me that these guys will go out and they'll use these $200 to $500 knives.
Yeah, I'll have to say now, I don't have a whole lot. I've got actually 4 custom knives. It looks, sometimes people think I've got a lot, but I trade the custom knives to get another one. So I've only got 4 custom knives in my collection, full stop. But this one, like the one I just showed you there with the stag's head on, this was bought as a complete user around the £300 mark. Absolutely, and I have no problems whatsoever using it. Now, the one that I just recently got, I'd say just call it a grand, the Artificer, a second hand, 900 is grand. This will not get used the same way as this does, because one, I can't afford to replace that if I, badly damage it. All right, this is not going to be a user as in just any jobs. This will be a specific job, and I'll always have a different knife in my pocket to use for anything that could cause a scratch or anything like that.
All right.
But this one could be my only knife, and I'll just use it because I just love the knife.
So let's. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. It's absolutely fine.
All right. So let's talk briefly about why you would spend more money for a knife.
Yes.
And I've got a couple examples here. So let's look. This is a QB. I haven't reviewed this knife yet, but this is a QB. It's a nice little knife. It's a Chinese company. They're good action on this knife. It's a good looking profile, kind of your standard profile for EDC knife, and it's very smooth. Okay, so it's shakeable shut. You have G10 scales on this knife, and just well constructed, well thought out little knife. Spent 30 something dollars on this knife on sale, right? So normally they probably go for 50 or 60 because they're a new company. And so what's the difference than paying $180 for a Hogue, right?
Yeah.
So there is a difference, and you do get something for paying more for a knife. Now
Absolutely.
They both cut, okay, but the action on this knife is much smoother. This knife is put together extremely well, right? So they're very rugged and durable knives. This knife is in MagnaCut, and so the blade stock can be thinner. See how thin that blade is? But this will do everything a heavy-duty knife will do because MagnaCut's tougher, right? So they can make that blade stock thinner because the steel is better. And so you're getting a better steel, which allows you to do different things. For instance, if you wanted to scallop the blade, or you wanted to give it multiple blade geometries in a different kind of steel, that might cause a steel to fail, right? So that's what you get when you pay for a little bit more, right, in a knife. You can, it's not always true, but you can get more value by paying a little bit more for a knife. You just have to educate yourself on what that value is, right?
Yeah, and this is one of the things that I'm always kicking on about. Jumping into the knife community and starting off at a $300 knife is not the way to go, because you have no appreciation of what came before you. And I think it's like everything. If you don't try the lesser knives and see what you get for your money, you're never going to appreciate what that $300 is, or why it got to be a $300 knife. Right. And sometimes it can actually show you that I don't want to spend $300 for that knife. I might do it for another knife, but that's not. I've got a knife here that will do just as much as it will, and that's true as well.
So six gun slinging, yeah, you used to be able to get GCs for a small price. You still can, actually. You have to really look for them and get lucky, I guess. But one of these knives, I think it was this one. I'm pretty sure it was this one. This GC I actually bought from the retailer for $140, brand new. And so, if you can get them from the retailer, they're just the same price as any good knife, like a good or a good buck. And I just bought a buck for 144, and they're in line with that. It's the secondary market. GC's only making 30,000 knives a year, and so it's supply and demand. And when you have so many people that want these knives, then I could turn around and sell that knife for $250, and somebody will buy it because they want it.
Yeah, I don't think it's GEC's fault. The thing that I fault with GEC at the minute, I'm a GEC lover, and I've said this again on my own channel, is that their standard has dropped a bit. I just don't see the fit and finish, and especially the backspring tension is gone.
Yeah.
And that's what puts me off them, because I've got plenty of GECs, but they're of the older sort of variety, which seem to be a much better fit and finish. And
Well,
that's the annoying part for me.
and the answer to that is buy older GECs now, right?
Yeah.
So when you go
Yeah.
on eBay, look for a GEC that's a 21 or earlier,
Yeah.
because I think that is the case. And here's the thing: is GECs producing around 30,000 GEC knives, but they actually produce more because they're producing knives for other companies. And
Yeah.
I've tried to figure out who they produce them for, but I haven't been able to do that. But I
Well,
do know they are,
yeah, Smoky Mountain Knife Works, they do their annual Winchester and that sort of knife they're making them. They also do, they make knives for marbles. They make knives for,
Yeah.
There's quite a few. There's quite a list that they'll do knives for.
Hey, Mark, how you doing, brother? D2.
Did I say, yeah, Winchester, sorry, I meant, yeah, not marbles. I don't know where I got the marbles.
Yeah. I think that's another thing. So Mark's bringing up the fact that the blade steels, and I think super steels are way, 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 way overhyped.
Yeah.
There is a place for them, and like I do enjoy super steels for their blade retention,
Yeah.
but you don't need that on every knife. And for most knives, D2 is just fine, and really I'd like to see case go to 14C 28 in.
Yeah.
Right. That's a fantastic tough uh, uh, stainless steel,
Yeah.
or
And if they went
124 CM.
1095 even just for a carbon steel is a fantastic steel.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need a knife this small. You're not going to use the qualities of these super steels in a little tiny knife that you use in everyday tasks, cutting thread, cutting a small piece of rope, cutting some burlap or bags, even the application for those super steels. I've said before, if you're a roofer and you're cutting roofing, every day, yeah, S30B, S35, S45BN steel will allow you to go all week before you have to sharpen your knife. If you're laying carpet and you're cutting carpet all the time, or you're a plumber or you're a landscaper cutting plastic corrugated tubing, that's where super steels make sense, right? Because you'll when you come home from a hard day of landscape and you really don't feel like sharpening your knife, and so that's where they make sense to me.
Yeah.
But
here's a question that they ask those in the talk box there.
Yeah.
What steel could you comfortably get away with your lifestyle? What steel could you comfortably get away with, and therefore you choose more often rather than the high-end steel? Give us your ideas about what steel you would use on a regular basis. And it's just be interesting to see, because I can,
honestly, I don't care. When I look at a knife, the only time I start looking at steel in a knife when I buy a knife is price. And so when for instance, when your average knife is being sold for $180 and it has D2 steel in it, I question that. I'm like, yeah, why is the knife $180? You have so many knives. This is an American-made knife. This Buck Sprint, American-made, okay, S30V, good heat treatment in it. I trust Buck to do the proper heat treatment in this knife. It's been a fantastic knife for me. I've only had it a week or so, but I paid $123 for that knife. So why am I paying $180 for a knife similar to this in D2? And this is burlap, heavy duty, really thick burlap micarta. Look how thick that is. See it? And that's when I question blade steels. Is when uh, when you've got 1095. That's one of the reasons I hadn't bought Spartan and what's that other company? You know, I
Chris
can't
Reeve.
think of not a Chris Reeve, but the Spartan Heretic type knives that when they first came out, they're selling these really nice fixed blades, and they're using 1095 and charging $180, right? And I'm like, hey, it's 1095, right? And there wasn't really anything special about the knife. I mean, yeah, they look cool, but it was no, there wasn't nothing that required from the company to make these really cool knives, that would cost the $180 to produce a fixed blade. I mean, you there's a lot of fixed blades. Buck produces fixed blades in America, and they're not $180. So that's the only time that steels get into it for me.
Yeah, I mean, I like 1095 on a fixed blade or a penknife because it's tough enough to be on a fixed blade. You can batter it and it's not going to collapse on you. It's not going to chip too much. It's a good steel.
Right.
But when I'm paying that sort of money, I do like to have maybe a wee bit more. And that's the honest truth too. I mean, I'm the same as you. Sometimes if I'm going to spend that much, I may as well get that. There's one of my favorites there, 154 CM.
That is my favorite. That is my favorite steel. So it's
ABL,
phenomenal.
ABL and things.
Strong. It's not the strongest steel, but it's in the middle. It's as strong or stronger than 1095. Yeah. It's right there with a lot of the S series steels, and it sharpens wickedly. I mean, it is so easy to get a fantastic edge on it.
Yeah,
I love it.
The other thing is when don't get hung up on the blade steel as much until you know the company you're buying from it is renowned for doing a good heat treatment, because you can have the best steel in the whole world, and if it's not heat treated right in any way, part of that heat treat is not done right, you may as well just buy 420, because it makes no difference if it's not been heat treated right. So be careful on the companies you're buying for, or from, I should say. Because that is so important. And the other fear that people have, of getting these super steels is the sharpening of them. It's no difference to sharpen a 428C as it is a 10V steel. It just takes a little bit longer, and it'll take diamond stones. That's the only difference, but you're doing exactly the same thing, just with different stones and maybe a bit longer. And learning to sharpen really, and I go on about this all the time, I'm sorry, but learning to sharpen takes the fear of any blade and their steel. Go ahead, Michael. I've shut up. Oh, Michael's disappeared.
Hey, there you go.
Oh,
most people don't know how to sharpen a knife, so that's a whole different thing there,
But I've noticed the blade steels that are coming up there, and it's ranging from 154 D2 S30V, but there's nobody has really said that their current user knife is much higher than what did we see there, S30V, and
right.
It's just, S30V is just a fantastic all-round steel, easy to sharpen, easy to strop, holds an edge a good long time. The other one that's really good that gets passed over a lot, although it's becoming more popular now as people realize, 14C28N, another super steel, absolutely great. Well, it's not a super steel, but it is a great steel to use and sharpen, and the toughness of it is fantastic.
Right. And I think you hit the nail on the head about heat treating, because just because you have MagnaCut, like I look at this stuff, right? So I look at how do you heat treat MagnaCut. there's like 5 different steps. It takes 3, 4, 5 hours
Uh-huh.
to heat treat it properly. And so when you get MagnaCut in an $80 knife, are they really heat treating that knife the way it's supposed to be heat treated to even use the properties of MagnaCut? So you can heat treat it, you can temper it, and it's not going to break. It's going to be fine, but it perform like MagnaCut is supposed to perform?
Uh-huh.
And that's a whole nother issue when you're looking at uh, steels and knives, especially when you're talking about upper end and lower end, right? And that's an argument of some people that when you buy MagnaCut in for $100, you're not getting the same MagnaCut
No.
that you get in a $400 knife.
Here's a knife that I love. This is the Tactile Bear. It's in MagnaCut, but it's only heat treated to 61.
Yeah.
Which is lower than what they suggest, which I think the basic they suggest is 62, 63, or even 63, 64.
Right.
But as a small, thin pocket knife, I love the knife. The steel isn't that. It's not that it's not important, because I like the 3 properties of the MagnaCut blade, but edge retention on this little knife is fantastic. It's only 61, which is not soft, but it is on the lower scale. I think it's still within bounds of a half decent blade. The edge retention, once you get over 60, that one going up by 1% or 1 degree or half a degree, even a 61.5, there's a big difference in edge retention. That, the harder you get, the edge retention goes up and up. So, I mean, although this is not going to come near anything that's 64, even 65 as edge retention, it's plenty enough for me on any day. This is going to last me any day.
Right.
And that's all I want. But this I bought for the thinness of the knife. The blade, I wanted to get a MagnaCut, and this is the one that I chose at £200. But it's perfectly fine for me. But others, as soon as some people will hear 61, they'll run away because it's not what everybody else says it should be at 63, 64.
Right.
So again, research is an awful big thing. Like you said that. Research is one of the things. If you're going to spend 100 plus on a pocket knife, you have to research it. I think anyway.
So I think that there is a difference. Okay. I think we've tried to explain that in steels and construction. I was telling Stephen, this artisan cutlery right here, it's a Dragonfly. I again bought this on sale. I got it for a really good price. It's absolutely fantastic build quality on this knife in every way. And those scallops, whether you like them or not, every single one is rounded over. There's not a sharp edge on this knife, except on the blade, by the way. The blade is sharp, but that's what you get when you pay more money. You get that kind of quality. You see how everything is rounded on there, and so that you do get something, when you pay more. But I think that kind of goes away. I agree with you, around $250, $300. To me, I consider knives in that $400 range as art. It's like going and buying a painting, and there's nothing wrong with that, but that's basically for me what you're getting. You're buying the knife for artistic reasons, right?
Yeah.
You're not getting any more functionality.
No. In fact, a lot of you're buying knives. I mean, this really expensive one, my just absolute grail. I just love this knife, but it's got CPM 154 on it.
Right.
So yeah, it's a super steel, but it's not a high grade super steel by any means. But it is a super steel, and it'll last. Look, the most this is ever going to cut is a tag on the back of my wife's dress or a bit of paper. But so I have no need for them. I mean, this could be pot metal and still would last me. And you're right. I bought this for the beauty of the knife, but also for the the fella that makes it. I bought it for his history of making exceptionally good knives that I can go and check up on. I mean, to get on his books, it is about 2 years. I mean,
Right.
that tells me a lot about a maker. If he can have his books 2 years, in advance, he's doing something right for people to keep on doing it. When I got it in hand, everything I expected to be the beauty of it was much more important than the steel. Was much more important than the steel. Much
Right.
more important than the materials. Full stop. It was how it was construction. I love the fact that one person made it from start to finish, uh, and took the time to haft it, to hand satin. It's a hand satin
Right.
blade rub, and took the time to do it to a standard that you can probably not see. It's so fine it wouldn't even come across. It
Yeah.
is so fine, and you don't see that till you get it in hand. It is amazing, and I don't regret it at all.
And
Will
that's
I?
what you get with a custom knife.
Yeah,
It's almost if you grab a custom knife and you hold it next to a really good factory knife, it's really hard to articulate, what the difference in those two knives are. But when you have a custom knife in hand, you see it. It's hard to articulate. There are differences. There's a quality to it that you don't see in the factory knife, and that's why traditionally I'm talking back since the beginning of the 20th
yeah,
century. There were categories of collecting, and custom knives were considered the highest category. And the problem now is you've got technology has reached the point where you can get custom like quality in a factory produced knife.
absolutely. Jack Wolf knife springs to mind. It's
Yeah.
perfection in fit and finish, and the materials they use. They get the most out of their materials.
Yeah.
And yes, it's got a good steel, but the steel alone is not worth the price of a Jack Wolf knife. It's the fit and finish.
Yeah. It's just got a lot more confusing,
Yeah,
on
yeah.
when you're talking about knives and what's the difference
And then you
and
get somebody like Joe. We were talking about him before the show. Joe makes a custom knife.
yeah,
I mean, this is going to be about £170 in the UK. This is a friction folder,
yeah. It's
but it is
fantastic.
a friction folder of the highest standard.
Yeah.
I'll try and get my hand behind it. You have the graduated blade done in the CNC, which is stunning, absolutely stunning. He's got 20 CV on it. When did you last see a friction folder with 20 CV on it?
Right.
In the hand, it is incredibly comfortable. Four-fingered knife. It's actually got jimping that's so purposeful, but it's not going to dig into you. And you can use this to do anything without any fear of it closing on you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Even more so than a slip joint. So, I mean, that to me it's custom made. He makes it himself. He uses CNC machinery. He hand finishes the blades and he hand finishes the materials that go on the blades. But it's still handmade by him. It's his design, his how he speaks, how he wants a knife to speak. This is everything that you need to know about Joe, because the fit and finish is just immaculate on it, and he is so. I think in life, Joe would be a sort of fella that has to have everything to the nth degree that he can do.
Yeah.
And he's getting a knife out that's taken him probably 6 years to get to the stage.
There's nothing wrong with buying a knife like that. I mean,
No.
that's why, I remember, this is going to show my age, but I remember, growing up, when I was in my 20s, the big thing was stereos, and getting a better and better stereo. And I mean, people spent $300. That's a lot of money back in the 70s, right?
Uh-huh.
People spent $300 on these big, huge stereo systems. You remember
Yeah,
that? Big
absolutely.
speakers and graphic equalizers,
Yeah.
and you could buy a radio for $40, but people
Uh-huh.
spent 300 because they wanted the best.
Yeah.
And so there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with spending $40 for a knife. There's nothing wrong if you want a little little something special, you
Yeah.
know, to spend more. And I wanted to point something else to that a lot of people, I deal with vintage, a lot of vintage knives, and a lot of people uh, think that paying a lot of money for a knife is a new thing, but it's not. And this knife right here, this is a reproduction, okay? But this is a reproduction of the 1128 model 1128 bullet knife from Remington. This Camillus made this knife, but it's very close reproduction to the original. It's missing a pin down here. The bullet knives had 4 pins, but otherwise this looks exactly like the 1128. And back in 1922, when Remington introduced this, they went for $1.85, which was really expensive. So expensive that Remington really only made around $200,000
Right. Yeah.
of those knives over the course of their history up to 1940 when they went out of business. They did not make, and this is, you're talking about companies making 1 million knives a year, right?
Yeah.
So they did not make a lot of these knives because they were so expensive. They just didn't sell
Yeah.
them. This orange blossom from uh, uh, Robeson, right? This knife is every piece of metal on here is polished. Any metal you can see, including the little tiny parts in the middle there, are mirror polished. This knife went for $3.25. So these little tiny knives were double the price of one of the most expensive knives around. And so people have paid for higher quality knives,
Absolutely.
Since they've been making knives.
And
Kings used to have really fine quality knives made back in the 1400s, where your average guy, it was a piece of metal and a couple of pieces of wood, basically.
yeah.
And so it's not a new phenomenon,
No.
that they're
And
paying.
you said one thing, and I think a lot of it is going to be status. They can be used as a status symbol. This is, here's where I am in my collecting.
Yeah.
Mine is much more simpler than that. I had a knife that had been given to the channel. I'd had it for long enough, and I'd done my due diligence or my due duty, and I'd advertised it enough, and I traded it in for this. Now, I could have sold it and got the money. Of course I would, and probably my wife would have loved that. But she let me just go ahead and trade, and I got this for it. And is this a show-off knife? Do you know what it is to me? It's my wee show-off knife that when I hold it, I realize the value of it. I realize how lucky I am to have it. And it is a sort of show-off. Whether I'll ever get another one matters not. I've had one now at that price range. You drop right down to about 350 for my next dearest knife.
Yeah.
Once you go. So I've got it, and I'm really glad I've got it. And it is, yes, something I'll show off.
Yeah, it's okay to do that, but that's not the reason why I get the knives that I do. Like I think some people do. Some people, I think it is a status thing. Hey, look at my $5,000 knife.
Yeah.
A guy might do that. But I think most people buy the knives for a practical reason, for their artistic beauty, for their functionality, to their exceptional quality that can be put into these knives.
Yeah, I think normal people outside, YouTubers are a different bracket of people, I find, because we're the exception to a lot of the rules. We will buy knives that are sometimes not exactly what we wanted, but it's because it's the modern thing. We'll have a go at getting it because so many other people have got it, and it makes your channel more as if you're keeping up with the times, and that's a dangerous place to be in. And a lot of people buy knives because they think they can make money on them, like GECs. And there is going to come a time when the bottom will fall out of GECs.
Yeah.
And like every other company.
So they're speculating, Patty, that you're smoking shamrocks there.
Yeah, very high quality shamrocks, yes.
It would explain why you're so mellow.
Yes. Trodden with my own feet till I got the juice extracted from them.
Yeah. Well, we know you went out this weekend and in the wild. You probably picked you up some mushrooms there.
Yeah, me and Justin went out this weekend and we had that green space really drops your shoulders, I have to
Is
say.
that why you guys were laughing so much because you were stewing up a few mushrooms there?
Trust me and Justin do not need a mushroom. A warm cup of tea, and me and Justin will giggle and laugh and just enjoy the fact that we're playing with knives.
Yeah.
And funny, we exactly what we're talking about. This is I brought these out. This is a brother knife. It costs about £30.
Mm-hmm.
It comes in a beautiful Kydex sheath with a clip, and it costs £30. It's in D2. We took it out and we cut with it, and Justin done quite a bit of cutting with it. Its head just held up absolutely perfect. Hasn't been touched since he was using proper seasoned wood, and he was doing the cutting with it.
Yeah.
This is fantastic. This would do me anytime going out into the woods.
Yeah.
So far, I don't know how it'll hold up, as far as, the materials, the blade, the D2, but it seems to be done well. And Brother had been tested quite a few years ago when they sort of came around and started bringing knives out, and their heat treatment was pretty good. It was never top of the high end, but it was always somewhere in there in the middle. This seems to be really well heat treated. Honestly, really does. But I took my Bravo, which is about a £200 knife, compared to this £30 knife. Did this cut any better? In all reality, no. It is a different blade grind, so I'm taking everything into perspective. But was it that much better than the price would suggest? No, it wasn't that much better. It's better, there's no doubt about it. In comfort in hand, it's beautiful. The materials are all done. Its fit and finish is perfect. But this fit and finish is absolutely not far behind. Take away the price.
Yeah.
This brother knife at £30. I recommend anybody go on AliExpress, order one. You'll get it. And some of these you can get within, 2 weeks. But usually it's somewhere 8 weeks to get some of their stuff. But it's worth buying it at that price at 30 quid.
Yeah.
It really is. But I enjoyed both of them. It feels in hand just so much superior. And that's another thing. The feel of a knife in hand can make or break a knife. A simple little hard corner can just turn you off a knife.
Those Mike Stewart, man, he's got those handles down. That Coke bottle design he puts on his knives, are just absolute. They just melt into your hand, you know. And a lot of people are starting to copy that, but I don't think they always quite get there,
Well, Six Gunslingers love that. Me and Justin became better acquainted. Can we leave it at that to keep it PG?
They're wearing you out. They're wearing you out here.
It was at the Hobbit House as well. Yep, it was at the Hobbit House, which is just an amazing wee building that was made. It's fantastic.
It was perfect for Judd, huh?
And we got the best, sunniest day we've had this year. We got the best day. Unbelievable. I was in a t-shirt at 10 o'clock in the morning out in the middle of the woods, and I haven't done that since probably September last year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We need to get back on target.
Back mountain style. Yeah.
What
I only have to send him into the Hobbit House and he's bent over.
Oh, man. I need to get out camping.
And me and Justin are going to do a camp this year, definitely, at least one. We had such a lovely day that both of us just left. About 4 hours we were there. We cooked a nice stew. And just getting out there in that grass was just amazing. Highly recommended, even if you're an old fella.
Now when I go out, like when I go hiking, I'm carrying a bunch of knives with me, and because I want to film the knives too out in the woods.
That's what we had. I can't tell you how many knives we had with us. Pocket knives, fixed blades, small and big. But it was fun. Anybody else there, campers and looking forward to the summer? And what's your camp knife? What's your favorite camp knife? That's a good question. because when I started, when I was bushcrafting years ago, my favorite and only knife that I took, proper fixed blade, was a Mora Robust, the
Yeah.
old Mora Robust, which was one of the most comfortable knives in hand. Plastic, it cost me about £15. Just an absolute bomb. I batoned with it. It's not even got a full tang. I batoned. I've done everything with it because I didn't care. It was a price that I didn't care. If it broke it, I just would have bought another one. And it never broke.
Yeah, he's they're gonna put that video out. Patty's gonna put that video out probably this week, right? On your camping trip.
Yeah, it should be. Now, I don't know how much video we had so much fun, but we didn't really take a lot of care to the video, which is bad. But we were practicing where to put the cameras in the wee place that we're doing it in, and it'll get better as time goes by. Well, you know my channel, but it should be out by the end of this week anyway. Justin can't even get a look at it until Wednesday. He's working and such, so it'll be out this week, hopefully.
My dad gave me a buck 120 when I was 17, and I had other knives. I don't know what happened to them, but I had some German knives. I've had knives off and on over the years, but that buck 110 was pretty much my hunting, camping, fishing knife for most of my life. I retired that about 2010. And I was getting other knives, and I was like, it was one of the few things left that I had of my father's, and so I retired it. I put it up, and I show it every now and then. But that buck 110 or 120, what is that? 40 years? I used it 36, 40 years. And it was hard to sharpen, though. I'll tell you that. It never was easy to put an edge on that thing.
Yeah.
But I think they were using I think it was 420 that they used on it back then. I bought it, I didn't buy it. My dad gave it to me in 1976. I think that's what they were using. But
well, that was probably before the Boss Heat Treat, was it?
Well, yeah.
I don't know when Boss Heat Treat started now. I have no idea.
Yeah, it just those stainless steels are hard to get an edge. You got to really work, to get an edge on them. I sharpen my my case. I show it here every now and then, but that little Model 18 I carry all the time. I was sharpening it the other day, and man, I'll tell you what, it took me 20 minutes of sharpening to get that thing to a razor's edge, and other knives, you just hone them a couple times and they're sharp. So that stainless steel, it is hard to sharpen, and that's one of the reasons, if you grew up in that era, the 70s and 80s, people really didn't like the 420 and 440 steel because it was hard to sharpen. And nowadays people, they get those bucks with the 420 HC Boss Heat Treat, and they're like, oh, it's easy to sharpen and it's great, but not compared to other steels, and not compared to 14C28.
Yeah, my buck 112, I actually got an S30V. I made a point of holding out to get one in S30V, and I have to say, it is a wonderful user, that buck 112.
Yeah,
so much better for me than the 110. I find the 110 a bit big and cumbersome, but the 112 just melts into my hand.
So Six Gun Slinging said that the Boss Heat Treat was 1969 is when they started doing it.
Yeah,
right there.
It didn't actually. The buck 110 didn't come out to this. It was the 60s it came out, wasn't it? Was it 64?
64, yeah. 1964. But they were making fixed blades long before that.
Yeah.
So I guess they hooked up with forget that guy's name. Frank was his name? I'm not sure his name.
You mean Boss himself?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't. I've never known his first name, so I can't help you there. No.
Yeah, Boss is his name. That's his last name. But
yeah.
I think his first name was Frank. I'm not really sure, but
Paul Boss.
Yeah, Paul Boss.
Somebody put it down.
Buck hooked up with him when he was in California,
Uh-huh.
and he started doing their heat treatment. Paul Buss, I think, was from Oregon, maybe one of those west states, and he actually came to California to start helping Buck out.
Right.
Just found my old Taylor game slip. What is that?
What's that? Just find my old
Ginger Fisher. What is a Taylor
Taylor.
Gamecock? Is that Stuart Taylor? Or are you talking about Stuart Taylor?
Is that? I'm going to see. I've got one here. I think. Is that the actual fighting the cock knife? I have one that Ashley made for me. The old cock knife that's got the saw.
Yeah, I
I
think
know
that's what.
that Case came out with one. Case made one. Well, there you got the sort of chopper blade. You've got the main blade, and you had a hacksaw.
Yeah, I think that's what they're talking about. But
yeah, I think so, but I'm not sure. I know this was called the cock knife.
I don't want to say that in the live show either. Well, I don't want to get banned,
Yeah, Ashley made that one for me. It had taken him so long to make it, and he had it in bit parts in the room because he tried so many different variations of it until he got it that it worked okay.
Yeah.
But it was that was a prototype that had been taken apart and put back together again so many times.
I want to get one of those. I think I'm thinking. Who am I trying to think of? Cheap knife.
Imperial?
Nah, they're still making knives. Frost. I think Frost still makes one of those Gamecocks.
Right. I just thought it was something different to have. Probably I'll never use it, but it was just something to have in my collection. I like something different. Just found my old. Have you come back to
I don't know. It just says Taylor Gamecock. Yeah, I think it is probably a Stuart Taylor knife.
I don't think I know Stuart Taylor. Should I know him? Is he somebody that was he a custom maker as such, or
he made really nice knives starting around 1974. He's the guy who bought out the Schrade name when they went bankrupt. And then Smith & Wesson bought Stuart Taylor.
So he took him to China then, did he?
Yeah, he took him to China. He sure did. And then, of course, Smith & Wesson bought his company, and so they have a trademark now.
Right.
All the Schrade trademarks, all of Stuart Taylor had like 164 trademarks. Phenomenal. And so Smith & Wesson has all of those now.
Right.
Which I've been kind of happy with. I wondered, what Smith & Wesson would do when they bought the Stuart Taylor. What are they going to do with Schrade, right? And they've got a full line of Schrade knives. If you go on the Smith & Wesson website, pretty much all the models that Schrade made, are available. And
yeah, I've got a couple.
I'm happy with what they're doing.
Yeah, I've got a couple of older Schrade knives that I really enjoy, especially in my my Barlow selection. They're older ones. They were the sort of the original Schrade ones. Let's just see if I can get one there. There's one I can get for you. That's one of the ones with the.
Yeah.
That's an old Schrade.
Yeah.
I just love this knife. That just a super knife. So I've got a couple like that, a couple of Schrades. And then Schrade that they made for Russell.
Right. That's special.
That's just an absolutely stunning knife.
Yeah. So that's beautiful knife right there.
Yeah, really is.
Those are really collectable because You know,
Right.
Germany made some Russell knives, but they're not authorized, and the Schrade ones were authorized
Uh-huh.
by Russell to celebrate their anniversary.
And Cripple Creek, there's another one that you don't see much of now, but what a well-made knife.
Yeah,
Look at that blade. And I mean, there you go. This is not, when I say, they're collectibles, but they're not something that's a £900 or something. These are just knives that normal people can afford. You just
yeah,
have to find them. That's the hardest bit, is
yeah.
actually finding them now in this sort of condition. Like this is like new in box.
Yeah, I think Frost has a Cripple Creek trademark too, so that's the other thing you got to watch out for when you're buying these knives. Um, I saw a video. I can't recall who put it out there, but somebody was talking about Winchester knives, right?
Ah,
And he had a couple black box knives that were made
that's
by
it.
Bluegrass Cutlery,
Yeah.
and Bluegrass Cutlery, you know, they make a really good knife.
That's one knife that I've been looking for to come up in a second, and I haven't seen one. The black box Winchester,
Yeah. Well,
really.
what what you want to look for is they have a date on the opposite tang. So genuine Bluegrass Cutlery will be marked Bluegrass on one side of the tang, along with the regular trademark of whoever they're making the knife. Um, but they'll have the date on the back of it. So
Right.
you see a lot of those uh, Winchester knives that are, you know, not made in China or
Yeah.
Germany. Those aren't the same quality.
No, look, I'm gonna have to go. My wife's just come to the door there, and she's my dinner on. I told her I'd be finished about 60, so
All
I've got
right,
about 2 minutes, and my dinner will be in the dog.
all right. Thanks, and we'll be getting out of
Yeah.
here soon. So you all say your goodbyes. And
Thank you so much for you that partook. You were great. That was great participation. Absolutely loved it. And we'll see you all in a fortnight's time, boss.
yeah,
Fortnight's time, same place, same gopping looking old faces. Right.
all right.
Take
Take
care,
care,
everybody.
Patty.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
All right. So we're gonna do this every 2 weeks. Y'all can go ahead and say your goodbyes. I really, really appreciate you for. I've enjoyed the conversation, watching your comments, and thanks so much for that. And every 2 weeks now, so we'll be doing it 2 weeks from today. I'm not sure what that is. Let me look real quick. I'll let you know. So 2 weeks from today will be May 7th. And I think I'm going to change the time. I think I'm going to go to 5 o'clock time again because I've ran this about 3 weeks this way. And that just gives other people a chance to come on and communicate. Thank you, Scene. All right, guys. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. And so the 7th of May is when the next one will be. Probably we'll do a 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time next time, and I'll let you know that. And really appreciate y'all participating. It was interesting. It's interesting to there's no right or wrong answer to that. How much will you spend on a knife? It's just you, right? And uh, it's really interesting to see what everybody's limits are. You know, mine on the upper end is going to be 250, 300. I have a hard time spending more than that. But normally, you know, I don't mind spending up to $100 on a knife, but it's rare when I go over that. All right. Thanks again. And we'll see you later, BDH. And everybody